Hi, this is Una Cammilleri for the case study about Truman Elementary School, module number 15. I'll be speaking as the administrator at the school who is identifying a problem and then working to fix it. Our National Standardized Achievement Test scores show that students are losing ground in literacy as they both move up in grade level and as they move together. So students are losing ground both as a whole, as a class moving together from year to year, as well as each year, say in second grade, the second graders for that class are losing ground in their literacy scores, as you can see from the chart to the left. Truman is the largest school in the district, and 15% of students qualify for free and reduced lunch. 5% of students speak another language than English as their primary language. And interestingly, a few classrooms are showing gains rather than losses. Second grade, for example, if you look at the chart between 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and last year, is actually showing gains. They showed a 6% increase in median percentile. What do I need to know to help solve this problem? I'd like to know how Truman's scores compare with other elementary schools in the district. I'd like to know what literacy programs our teachers are using and how much training they've had and if that's equitable. And I'd like to know why some grades are showing gains when the overall loss is what is trending. So what's the problem? Our problem right now, the big picture, is a declining median percentile score in standardized achievement scores in literacy. The smaller pieces of that problem are that there are inconsistencies in scores across both grade level and as a cohort. There are inconsistencies in how reading is taught. There's parent concern. There's perception in our community that spelling and reading are no longer taught, which is certainly not the case. And instruction at the moment is not really aligned with current research. My plan of action is to first gather perception data from all stakeholders, that's parents, teachers, and students in our community. Next, I would like to apply for the state literacy grant that is available to us. I think it's very important to involve our reading supervisor in the application regarding research-based programs. This is following a very good CFIP goal or school improvement plan. Making sure that teachers feel valued is important. I'd like to determine the budget required for the new program and training in order to include that information on the grant application. And I'd like to investigate the demographics of our district as a whole versus Truman. We need to decide what data to include on the application. While all data included needs to be true and valid, we do have the opportunity to use our interpretations of sets of data to our advantage to make ourselves and our application look more compelling. I'm going to hold a parent meeting now to address concerns and show my plan of action. I would also like to hold a second parent meeting in 6 months to address what we have done and to show progress that I know that we will make. If we are awarded the grant, I would like to implement up-to-date research-based reading programs across all classrooms and grades. If we are unfortunate and do not receive the grant, we will need to pursue alternate funding in order to implement new reading programs. Lastly, I believe we need to take interim literacy data throughout the year to monitor progress. Currently, the only data that I have available to me is year-end data, and that shows the big picture but not in between. The strategies that I will use to implement the plan. For the grant application, I would like to use our in-house expert, our reading supervisor, who has already investigated some of these concerns for me, and this will show her that she is very valued in our school. I'd like to determine what sets of data best show Truman's needs and use proper interpretation methods to magnify the need. Just as I said before, it is up to us to show our need to the state, and we need to do it in a true and ethical way. I would like to use the standardized test results to show the data regarding need, which we already have and have already seen on slide 1. regarding the perception in our community and our perceptional data. The perception of our community at the moment, they're concerned. They're concerned that we are not teaching reading, we're not teaching spelling, and I'd like to make sure that they know that they have valid concerns that are being addressed. I will hold in-person meetings as well as use a Google Forms survey to capture the entire audience. I know that there are some parents who cannot attend in-parent meetings, and having an alternate form of data collection is valuable. I would like to implement new programs using a school improvement plan as a guide. I would like to use research and data about the new program to hook the teachers. We need to show them why this program is going to be beneficial, how it works, and why it will be best for our students. And by using data that already exists for programs is one way to hook our teachers and prove to them that this will be beneficial. I would also like to use incentives for using the new program rather than incentives for score increases. I have seen that tying reward to scores or to school data performance does not always work for all audiences. For instance, if we have 15% of our population that is in financial need, that's a special population that sometimes does not do as well on standardized tests. As test scores don't always show the full picture, I think that where we need to start is simply encouraging our use the program. We also need to provide professional development in training the teachers in using the new program, as well as training them in how to use data collection methods, both for end-of-year scores and for new interim assessments. What's best for the students? So literacy instruction is vital in the early years, and data shows that is where we are most lacking. Focusing on grades 1 through 4 as phase 1 would be recommended. If you look at the scores that we have, while we certainly have needs in all of our grade levels 1 through 8, the most blatant need at the moment is the early years. And if we can make improvements in the early years, it will filter on as students progress throughout the school. So data to support this resolution that I'm proposing. A large loss in literacy score is also shown year to year, particularly between 2nd and 3rd grade. It showed a 7% loss last year. I believe that summer programs, both in the school and possibly take-home information, could be beneficial to prevent a loss of momentum. 15% of our students are on free and reduced lunch. There needs to be support in place for families who may not be able to provide at-home homework help or access to technology that may be needed with our new literacy program. We need to make sure that all of our students have access to our curriculum. As only 5% of students are non-native English speakers, we can conclude that a language barrier is most likely not the main culprit in our declining literacy scores. New instruction does need to accommodate those 5%. They should not be forgotten, but it should not be the main focus of our change. So as I progressed through this decision process and thought about how to help our school and what our needs were, a quote came to mind by Helen Caldicott. Teachers, I believe, and administrators, are the most responsible and important members of society because of their professional efforts affect the fate of the earth. As an administrator is the keeper of the school and has a responsibility to all stakeholders and not just students. We are educating a community, and hopefully by gathering perception data, the community feels heard and valued. I was concerned that this issue was only coming to light after a letter from the PTO. We need to do a better job in continually evaluating our data to make positive change. I am also concerned with how to make these much-needed changes if we do not receive the grant funds. My plan of action will have to be revisited if we do not receive this money. There were a few issues that are still unresolved or open to further investigation. The literacy scores from the other schools in the district need to be compared to Truman. We know Truman is the largest, so looking at other schools could tell us if student body size is a negative factor. We need whole school interim literacy assessments, and those need to be chosen, as I have not proposed one quite yet. The math achievement scores also shows a decline in overall median scores, and that was not addressed in this presentation. However, the data for the math is not quite as alarming as the literacy. If you were to add the grade-to-grade change in each grade last year for literacy, you show an overall decline of 6%, whereas for math, you get a decline of 4%. Even a decline of 4% is not acceptable and needs to be addressed, but for the moment, we're focusing on literacy. I'm also concerned that the grant award money will not come until next year if we receive it, so we may need immediate gap funding in order to start implementing programs. I addressed engaging the community by holding a parent meeting right away, and will hold a follow-up meeting in 6 months. I also used a Google form to solicit perception data from those who may not be able to attend in person. And I am making sure our 15% who is low income does not slip through the cracks of our new program by creating home supports as needed. I communicated to the larger community by addressing the issue immediately when the PTO letter arrived, and I validated their concerns by looking at our literacy scores, and these two pieces together showed me that I needed to take action. I looked at both cohort and grade-to-grade change and saw that the need for improvement was multifaceted. I will use interim assessments to hopefully show immediate improvement to wait for yearly state assessment results. I addressed policies, laws, and regulations by working with the PTO to address their concerns and keeping an open line of communication between parents and school as required in PTO governing documents. I only used true information and correct data on the grant application, but I evaluated the best way to represent the data to increase our award possibility. I also used the data that we collect and our policy regarding students who are qualified for free and reduced lunch to draw conclusions about a population of 15% who may need extra support. I will ensure that while we only have 5% non-English speakers, we do not forget these families because the number is so low. I'm scheduling a follow-up meeting with parents, and I'm showing that this is not only a one-time and then forgotten issue. I will follow up with them. And then in applying for the grant, we will be required to have ongoing dialogues in the form of interim progress reports and final reports. This should help us hold us accountable to a larger organization, and the implications will be monetary. All of these things should improve student performance and instruction. I truly think that Truman is a wonderful community, and in working together, we can all make some wonderful positive change.